ready, go.
Yeah. Right. Good evening, everybody. I'd like to call this meeting of the Board of Trustees of the Grand Marais Public Library to order on this Thursday, August 24th, 2023 at 5:05 p.m. Do a roll call on Dave Mills, Cook County Commissioner, current Board President.
I'm Kevin Lepore. I'm the Vice President.
Sue McClone, Secretary and Trustee.
Sarah McManus, trustee.
Michael Gary, City Representative.
Amanda St. John, Library Director.
And that is everybody in this room this evening. Thank you for being here. First thing is our consent agenda, which includes our agenda and the minutes from last meeting and then the bills. Is there anything, any change to the agenda or anything that anyone wants to talk more about in the consent? Else I entertain a motion.
I would make that motion.
I'll second.
Thank you. We have a motion from Councilor Gary and support from Kevin. Any further discussion there? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Thank you. That moves us down to the Friends Liaison, and that's Jan Smith, but she's not able to be with us this evening. She bops in after. Certainly give her a spot here. And then after that is just our wonderful director's report.
Ooh, that happened fast.
And
Are you
no,
ready?
There's no rush. So
And there's
take
no
your time.
rush.
Situate
And I have,
yourself.
we just got this, right?
I
Yeah,
just, yeah.
yeah.
I
Yeah.
Okay, good. So I'm like, I would love to be reading this. So you have time.
I do, okay. So our last meeting was canceled, so I have two reports. One is from July, and I was providing everyone some conversation around the way that the library's operating right now is not sustainable. And in particular, that's because of the impact of the flood and the pandemic, and then understaffing since 2019. June, however, was a whirlwind with lots of activities going on, and so for perspective, we had 800 more people visiting the library this June than we did the prior year,
Wow.
and 92 more Wi-Fi sessions this year than last.
Any coffee spills?
Probably. In fact, if we can get our spigot fixed, we're still waiting on parts. If we could get that fixed, I'd like to have the steam cleaning guy not steam clean the carpet, but the upholstery of our furniture. Our August report, we welcome Nancy Giguère to the library board, and she is passionate about libraries, of course, and aims to learn about the needs of library users, active and potential, throughout the county, and she takes cost-effective and sustainable measures and approaches to our work as very important. She teaches chair yoga, she volunteers and freelances in Grand Marais, and she'll join us at the next meeting.
Yay.
Summer reading program wrapped up on the 17th, so just a couple of days after our strategic planning session. We had a puppet show as well as a picnic, which was partially indoors because of the weather. I think that's the first time we tried to do our party indoors. It turned out just fine. And we had so many leftovers, we took some up to the community center where the farmers market was going on and passed out free food to the public. We had, I can do this off the top of my head, we had about 200 kids registered for the reading component of our program. 58 of those were early literacy. And so we're really honored to be able to support parents in building those pre-literacy skills. And then we had about 136, somewhere in there, school-age kids. And of course, we love to see that too. The benefit and the real motivation behind having a robust summer reading program is because we know that kids who read for pleasure tend to read more, and also because kids who read during the summer tend to retain their literacy skills from one school semester to the next. We had 20 story times and over 300 people attending those. We had like 35 craft afternoon sessions and hundreds of people attending those. And I'm trying to remember if our program set brought in 425 or it was 550. Anyway, lots of attendance and participation in the program. And then, yes, just to announce for the public that on August 15th, the Library Board of Trustees, library staff members, myself, Amanda St. John, the director, and Erica Turness, who's a librarian one in the library, as well as some of our community partners, had a strategic planning session, and that was led by Administrator Roth and Communications Director Patrick Knight. That process is still underway. We're trying to organize the data, and we'll get back to everyone for the next part as soon as we have a clearer picture there. And those are my reports. Do you have any specific questions or areas of interest?
The strategic planning was a really wonderfully led session with good participation. I regret not being able to stay for the whole thing, but I was happy to bounce back. And I was really surprised and taken aback with just the whole finance side of things, just that stability of finance. And I was.
You mean that bubbled up as being
Priority.
Yeah, and I think not, but that's my opinion.
Well, I mean, we can just, I mean, it's revealing, right, to what our community's concerns are, mindset is, you know, and so my initial reaction was like recoil and defense or whatever, you know. And then I've sat with it a lot more, and I was just like, all right, well, we need to take that in, and I guess.
But that, you know, I mean, we can take it in, but we have to recall that, you know, we had a very narrow slice of the pie of the community there.
Yeah.
And so that's something to be taken into account. Yes, these are people who are in some ways stakeholders already. And so, you know, and in their worlds, many of their worlds, especially Karen's, no, not really. But, you know, like, she brought it up because, like, duh, yeah, of course, finance. Finance is always important.
Right.
But in fact, that's not, we're not in the same world as, you know, like a nonprofit or something like that, or a business. You know, we have a different source of our funding, and so it's not quite the same situation. It's not like we have any expectation that the city and county is going to like pull funding for the libraries tomorrow. Like, that seems pretty far-fetched. Like, certainly there are threats out there for libraries, but I don't think it's coming from that direction. And I think the defunding has everything to do with freedom of speech, and that's more where I was coming down. Like, to my mind, it's like, we got to make sure that we've got policies in place, that we've got plans for dealing with people who are going to say, like, you can't have this book, you can't have that book, you're going to have that book, we're going to burn it, or whatever. You know, that's more where I felt like we should have been going, although it didn't make it. But, you know, we as a board can
Yes.
take it in a direction that we feel, and not to, it's not really the will of the people. This is just a gathering of people who have stakes in other worlds that are bringing their interests and knowledge to us to bear on this issue.
Yeah, really trying to help guide us in developing that strategic plan. So I really appreciate that participation and those perspectives. And yeah, I was sitting with that finance side of things a bit more, and I really appreciate what you just said, just bringing that perspective and that lens because of the other lenses, right? Maybe not understanding the finances of the library, how it all works, and then I also thought just more about some of the feedback we've been getting about our slush fund, right? And maybe maybe what we need to be doing on that finance thing is just communicating how the library is funded and how important the city-county relationship is for that, and how solidly the library is supported by our community
Yeah, I mean, that was.
Through those, you know.
Yeah, through those, but also that came out very strongly in our meeting as well, you know, just the support from the community,
Yeah, yeah.
for sure.
So that made me, yeah, gave me pause, and I've been rolling that around a lot. Also thinking about, boy, it'd be really helpful if we developed a plan, or not, but maybe developed a plan for that larger fund. Like, what are we trying to achieve? What do we want to do? I mean, it's substantial. We have been using it.
Right.
There have been things that have come up, and we are very fortunate to have that. But I have been hearing feedback from community members that there are expectations for more substantial projects, and so that's just, it's unclear where to push for that. Touche.
Yeah.
But yeah, all in all, very, very thankful and happy with the process. It was a lot of fun. Enjoyed
Yeah.
myself.
And I think, you know, that's one thing I took away too, is like that we've got, like, we have this money and we should be using this money.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, you know, like really the finance piece to me, like I just might start with the conservative piece of like, yes, make sure we have every single dollar we ever will need, you know, blah, blah, blah. But in this case, I mean, the intention of these funds is that we spend them.
Yeah.
That is the purpose. That is
Yep.
what we want to do. And we can't use them for some of the things like that were brought up, like, well, why don't you use that money to pay your staff? Well, you know, can't do that. But there are things we can use it for that I think, you know, spending it down some would be a good plan.
Yeah, just what kind of projects would make a big impact in our community and really, you know, work towards the mission and vision of the library, and, you know,
Yeah.
lots
It's not a
of,
bad position to be in.
no, and just lots of ideas rolling around with that. So, that was my only further faculty report, is the
Okay.
strategic planning. Anybody else have?
Yeah. How did you guys feel about strategic planning?
I like the cookies. Cookies were good.
Very good. Cut paper. And that brings us to our old business, the 2024 budget.
All over again.
Do it over.
Okay.
So, this was intended for our last meeting on July 27th, I think is what I was doing here. So maybe you've heard some of this already, and that's okay. Just to share, the budget passed with a 4.8% increase, which is beneath the 5% cutoff where the county will adopt the budget. If they have any questions for us, they'll reach out to me and we can organize a response so that trustees can go up and have a chat with the county commissioners. But I also wanted to show some transparency of what happened and why we went from 6.4 or 6.8 down to 4.8%. It was data corrections in the spreadsheet that made the change. And then we did take a look at the insurance rates projection. We project ahead of everyone else and ahead of the final numbers, and with a closer look, we were able to see that we could make a change in the budget there too. So essentially, the budget that you requested has been passed. And then I just wanted to follow through that during our meeting with City Council, that counselors were inquiring about the library's 215 fund, which includes donations, grants, and endowments. They wanted to know, could this money be used to offset operational costs? What can it be used for, and is it being used? So some of the monies have been restricted by donors, but the Library Board of Trustees creates the policy on how the money will be invested or used. And so I just thought I would bring in the policy that currently exists, explaining how those monies were intended to be used by a prior group. So I don't have any specific questions for you. I'm just offering some transparency and follow-up from the process.
grounds, building, furniture, equipment, collection expansion. Technology expansion of services, security programs and shows, marketing campaigns.
And that's all 215, right? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's practically everything.
Mm-hmm. It doesn't give a whole lot of guidance, in my opinion. And, but I guess, I mean, it's spelled out. There is a framework there. I really think that 216 is harder. Monies from this account are to be used in such a manner that does not lessen any or substitute for monetary support from the state, county, city, or any other source of public funds. So basically, you have to vote to not fund something in order to use the 216 fund. Else, the city, county would have been using the money.
And I think inside of the 215, there are some monies that have restrictions like this. I'm blanking on the names, but,
So,
mhm.
okay, so there are funds within the 215 account that are somewhere spelled out. Do we have that
Yeah,
here?
yeah.
Okay.
There are other bequests. So Hazel Matthews is one person who provided a bequest to the library. There are a handful of others that we know of and have the contracts for those, and they have a very similar language where these monies cannot be used on staff or they can't be used in place of operational
Yeah.
funds, but they can be used for like anything else that you need, that the library needs to
And I would think,
perform well.
yeah, I would think, Dave, and, you know, I'm not sure the legalese of all this, but, you know, one could interpret the 216 to mean that, you know, that, you know, anything that, you know, it can't be used for operations, I think is more what this is pointing at, rather than saying that it can't be used for something that might also be, you know, in-kind funds happen all the time. I don't think that's what they would be talking about. Is that kind of the direction? I mean, that wasn't the direction I think you were going, but to my mind, it would seem like, yeah, I mean, if it's not like paying for, you know, paper and wages, we can use it for projects.
I was mainly just being difficult.
Yeah, well, okay. And I took it up, so my fault. Blame the victim.
No, I was just trying to be technical and about it.
But don't you think, I mean,
Yeah, that's
but I'm
reasonable.
not saying you're not wrong, I'm just saying,
No.
I mean, I am saying you're wrong, but, but wouldn't you agree that we could look at it that way?
Yeah.
You know, the language speaks to that, and I don't, you know, again, like, did an attorney write this? Is this, you know, how, it seems if it's just our guiding document and it's not been
Yeah.
vetted in any other way.
The
I guess-
language for Hazel is legal,
Okay.
contract.
Okay, well, then we can find out from our lawyer what that means.
One of the things that, the fifth one, endowment fund building, that's kind of fun.
Wait, which one are you talking about?
Uh,
Where are you?
216?
C5, the 216, yeah,
216,
the last one.
the last, oh, I see.
Because I've kind of rolled that around, it's just like, boy, wouldn't that be nice if the Grand Marais Public Library could give a scholarship to students for whatever, you know, that's kind of what I think of with an endowment fund.
Mhm.
But that's a whole nother process to develop that, but maybe we should, in the next board meeting, look specifically at the language of the 216. Would that be helpful, or maybe we should just get through the strategic planning first and then go from there?
Yeah, maybe that'll help us. for sure.
It does make putting finance on the strategic plan make more sense if we're going to look at it strategically as opposed to I think of finance normally as an operational
Yeah.
area.
Exactly,
Right.
yeah.
And that was why I was surprised to see it on our
Mhm.
list of priorities. But if delving deeper into the funds and seeing what's the best way to utilize them to
Mm.
support the library's
point.
activities
Yep,
makes more sense to me.
yeah.
And I don't think that's what it was the intention.
No,
was,
no, no.
But that's kind of where I was going with it.
Yeah.
That's how we'll twist it.
That's how we're reading it.
Thanks for your input, doing what we want to do.
Well, it really did bring the attention kind of, or focus towards that, you know,
Yeah.
it's just, yeah. I'm with you, that's another spin. And important, because, like I said, I think, well, I've been hearing it from the community, and not just this year, but past years too, just say, hey, what's up with that? And past boards too have kind of wrestled with that. To not much avail, you know, just.
Yeah.
But there's been lots of disruptions, so.
Well, it's good to have made us aware of these funds. Maybe when we're talking about something in the future, some sort of outreach, some sort of thing, if we know there's some money in these funds, this has brought our attention to it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Okay. Well, I think, yeah, after we go through our strategic planning, we should really dive into this a bit more.
Yep. You know, and when we're talking about staff development, I mean, we've got
Mhm.
people in school,
Mm.
that's staff development.
That's a great point. That, yeah, that could get tricky with labor law. I don't know. Just with,
Well, I mean, maybe, but how so, how are you seeing it?
well, school reimbursement might be more of like the employer's, maybe not, I don't know. I guess I don't know.
Hmm.
The employer's bag, but why not the library's bag? You know?
Yeah, I
The
mean,
board
if
is
it's part of staff, to my mind.
Yes,
Part of
yes.
staff development.
Yeah.
You know, I think about other businesses, they'll pay for Joe Schmo to go get his MBA. I mean, you know, I guess it's a business. I get
Mr.
that.
Schmo is pretty smart.
Mr. Schmo?
It's also interesting, just looking at the 211 versus the 215. 211 being the operating and 215 being restricted. For 211, Part B there is fund balance up to 6 months operating budget. And then.
And then why is that again? Yeah.
Exactly.
I was wondering about that. Like,
Yeah.
how does that make sense? It's a restricted fund, we can't use it anyway. Or purportedly, anyway. To get a good lawyer, you can do a lot of things. So,
Clear as mud.
so I'm sorry, Amanda, did you say we do have the 215 fund somewhere in our world of, my world of paper?
You can have access to the contracts. They're many, many pages and old.
Yeah, no, I don't want to see that. What I would like to see is something that says, here's the 215 fund, and here's how much is in each one of the subcategories. So like, here's this one that's restricted, and this one is restricted, but this is the actual amount of money in that restricted one. Does that make sense?
I'm wondering if we have anything more than,
Because it says some of these funds. Well,
like, how do you keep them all separate?
yeah, so
Yeah.
my thought would have been like, okay, here's 215, and under 215, we have Joe Schmo's account that says, here's how much I gave, and this is how much is available still, or whatever.
And I can see one of the other donors' names is Margaret Lacey. This is the expense sheet that's in everybody's packet.
Yeah.
And it's here, it's broken down by county grants, interest earnings, contributions, Minnesota Foundation, the Margaret Lacey, ALS crossover insurance, bestsellers.
Okay.
And,
Gotcha.
I would have to ask if we have any more detail than that.
No, that's great. That is what I want.
Oftentimes, when I get a donation that's very restricted, like I want this to be used on children's books and it's $200, I spend it. Because it's a really great way to keep the money in use and also to remember what it's for.
Okay.
Mhm.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I heard, let's talk about this at the next meeting, and I heard, let's wait and see what's going on with strategic planning, and then if you felt like it would be beneficial, we could also talk to Kim and ask her to come in and talk about the funds again from her perspective. What would be most useful?
My opinion is wait till strategic planning, because maybe we're going to see something that we need to focus on there, and we've got some money.
I agree with that, so, strategy. I'm just looking through past materials. Archived action plans, policies, the one, financial policy was in 2015, and then there was another in 2019. I didn't see a whole lot of differences there. Undoubtedly there are, but just trying to glean any other helpful tidbits. But, I don't know, what do y'all think about that? Let's follow through with this strategic plan.
Plan first.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with that, unless it lasts too long. In which case, we can take action.
Yeah.
for that, but-
Yeah, if need be, yeah, if something comes up.
Yeah. Just-
Very good, thank you. Yeah, so that's the old business, and, yep. Really appreciate your working through that and, going through the numbers a second time and going to city council a second time. Yeah, just thank you for going
Hopefully
through
that wasn't
that.
too painful, I'm sorry I wasn't there.
I missed the first one.
Yes, you did. And-
The second one didn't seem very painful, though. No. And otherwise, we have the communications, our fund statements from the St. Paul Minnesota Community Fund and the Superior Community Foundation. And then a couple memos there. We have our budget, and then this one we just went over here. Anything else?
Nope.
Very good. Well, then we are adjourned.
Yeehaw.
Thank you.
Can he do that, Kevin?
Yes.
Can he-